Welcome to Healing, Hope, and Health, the program that proudly highlights the mission and services of Hospice of Washington County. I'm Bernadette Wagner, and I'm so glad you could join us for today's show. Our first guest is Lindsay Anderson, Director of Volunteer Services for Hospice of Washington County. In her role, Lindsay is responsible for recruiting, training, placing, evaluating, and recognizing hundreds of volunteers throughout the year. Today, Lindsay will explain the important role volunteers play and enumerate some of the available volunteer opportunities. Lindsay, thanks for being here. I appreciate you taking time to join us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the volunteers. They play a very important role. Could you tell our viewers about the various volunteer opportunities that are available right now?
They do play a really important role. I don't know if everyone realizes that when a patient is enrolled under hospice care, it's a whole interdisciplinary team, a whole team of people who provide support and care to our patients.
And their families.
And
right?
their families. Yeah. And the volunteer is one part of that team. And we use volunteers in a number of different capacities. We have volunteers that help out as companions, giving a break to patients' family members. It's exhausting being a caregiver, and it's really wonderful if we can have a volunteer go give them a break and have time outside of the home to do what they need to do without being fearful that the patient is home alone. We also have volunteers that just visit our patients for companionship, just to be an extra visitor to them, spend time with them. We see some patients that really don't get many visitors. So for a volunteer to just go and be present with them, spend time with them, hold their hand, listen to them, read to them, whatever they would like to do.
Give them a chance to recollect on their life.
Yeah, yes. So our companion volunteers are probably our biggest, that's what I was just explaining. They're our biggest group of volunteers that we have.
And what are Hospice of Washington County's biggest volunteer needs right now? Is it companion volunteers or is it something else?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that our biggest needs right now would fall under the special service volunteer category.
Okay.
So, and what that includes are cosmetology, haircut volunteers. So we have licensed cosmetologists that will go out into the patients' homes or into the nursing homes to provide haircuts to our patients who aren't able to get out of the home anymore and go to get their hair done.
Oh, that's
and it's
so
very
nice.
important.
Yeah.
We have licensed massage therapists to go and provide massage therapy for stress relief and pain management for our patients. We have pet therapy volunteers that we have a couple of pet therapy teams. They'll go in with their dogs and visit patients with their dogs. And music is another area that we could always use more volunteers. Right now we've got 2 music volunteers, one that plays the guitar and the keyboard, and another that plays the harp. And music can be a very powerful tool at the end of life, so that's always nice to have more.
Comforting and soothing. And
yes,
that's
definitely.
Great. That's great. Well, what motivates somebody to become a hospice volunteer? Isn't it too sad? I mean, explain that to us.
Yes, so I would say that the majority of our volunteers end up coming to want to volunteer for our organization because they have been personally touched themselves by hospice. Okay. So they have had a family member or a friend who has utilized hospice services, and they really just kind of want to give back and be able to provide service because they got so much help from hospice themselves. Okay. And as far as it being too sad, I get that a lot, even in my position. You know, I can't believe that you work at hospice. I don't think I could ever do that. It just seems like it would be too sad. And the reality is that, yes, there are sometimes sad moments, of course. However, the majority of the time, it's really a joyful time. You know, our volunteers, when they're spending time with our patients, I think the majority of the time they're spending time talking about their lives, what they did during their lives, and not necessarily about death.
Right.
So,
well, it seems to me too that it's so rewarding being able to be present to and minister to somebody else. So not only are they enriching that person's life, but their own life, they feel fulfilled and rewarded. So it's a win-win for the volunteers.
We often hear from them that they feel like they get back even more than they give.
That's great. So Lindsay, what qualities or skills should a volunteer possess?
Well, certainly somebody who's caring and compassionate. You have to have a lot of empathy the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, for sure. But two other qualities that I think are really important. One is just being a very reliable, dedicated person. Somebody that the family knows that they can really count on.
Right.
And being a good listener is also a really important attribute. Somebody who can really sit down and take the time to listen to what this patient wants to say. It's their last time in their life, and we really want to make sure that we're respecting that.
Okay, we have just a little bit of time and a couple more questions. Do volunteers need to get a medical background or provide physical care to patients?
No, volunteers, there are other members of the team that do that because it is a whole team. So we have nurse on the team, CNA, they're going to be focused on the medical and physical caregiving piece of it. The volunteers don't have to have any medical background. They don't perform any kind of caregiving or medical duties.
And what is the time commitment involved?
Most of our volunteers volunteer once or twice a week for up to 4 hours. So it's something that most people have the ability to fit into their schedules.
Okay. And lastly, what is the process to become a volunteer?
They would have to complete a volunteer application and come in to meet with me for an interview. I do run a background check and references on all of our volunteers, and there is a training that they would go through. I offer a training class on a quarterly basis.
Lindsay, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. These words, spoken by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., are particularly relevant for two reasons. First of all, they call to mind the life of an incredible leader who our nation honored earlier this week. And secondly, these words are descriptive of the painstaking excellence that Hospice of Washington County volunteers demonstrate day in and day out. I'm grateful to Lindsay for joining us for today and for the work she does to recruit and support Hospice of Washington County's volunteers. If you're interested in volunteering for HWC, check out our website or contact Lindsay at 301-791-6360. Stay with us. I'll be right back after this short commercial break.